Ah, Christmas. Just about my favorite time of year. You got no school, you eat like a pig, decorate your house, and people give you stuff. What could be better than that? But of course, we must acknowledge the movies we like to watch to get us into the Yuletide spirit. There are too many Christmas movies to pick, so I had to whittle them down to 12. So this is my top 12 favorite Christmas movies. Oh, and by the way, if you're expecting to find this movie on this list, don't bother. What?
So I'm offering this simple phrase to kids from 1 to 92. Although it's been said many times, many ways, Merry Christmas to you.
Number 12. Jingle All the Way. Oh, knock it off. Released in 1996, it involves a workaholic father going through hell trying to get his hands on the hottest Christmas toy ever, Turbo Man.
I want the Turbo Man action figure with the arms and legs that move, and the boomerang suitor, and the rock and roll jetpack, and the realistic voice activator that says 5 different phrases, including "It's Turbo Time!" Accessories sold separately, batteries not included.
Yeah, I know, people say this movie goes against everything that Christmas is all about and heavy on commercialism, but here's the thing. I like this movie because it is true to life. You turn on the evening news and you see reports of people stampeding stores to get their hands on the popular toy, and when they're sold out, people go completely ballistic. This movie shows that, but it pushes it to the point of absurdity.
Give me this.
Hey!
This is war.
Woo!
Yeah!
Cool.
Oh, poor baby.
You've got Arnold Schwarzenegger playing the seeking of a children's toy like he's hunting a predator.
Where's your Christmas spirit?
And you've got Sinbad as his rival, out to get his hands on the same toy.
I work for the post office, so you know I'm not stable. Tell him.
This man is totally insane.
Thank you.
So yeah, this is a serious guilty pleasure movie that never fails to make me laugh.
It's Turbo
Number 11. The Ref. Released in 1994, The Ref is the story of two bickering couples, played by Kevin Spacey and Judy Davis, being held hostage by Dennis Leary as a cat burglar on the run from the cops following a heist gone wrong.
Never have happened if you come into the store with me.
Well, that makes sense.
No, he chose me because I was alone.
Shut up! He did not.
Jesus
fucking Christ!
Okay.
Not a lot of people are aware of this movie. It slipped into obscurity, which is a shame because there are so many funny moments and lines of dialogue.
You know what, Mom? You know what I'm gonna get you next Christmas? A big wooden cross. So every time you feel unappreciated for all your sacrifices, you can climb on up and nail yourself to it.
Plus, Dennis Leary's reaction to the constant bickering never fails to get a chuckle out of me.
Let's all go to the
Sit down,
bathroom.
Connie. Sit.
Excuse me, but I am not one of your patients.
You're gonna be somebody's patient if you don't get your ass back down into that chair.
Wow. Ow.
And I swear to God, you hit that kid one more time, and I'm gonna stick that pig's head right up your ass.
Judy Davis and Kevin Spacey play off each other so well.
In the 9th grade, we told him he could get a part-time job. You ready for what he did? He started an escort service for the football team, and he gave out my mother's phone number.
And I still say getting laid by an 18-year-old linebacker is just what she needs.
Please, let's lower our voices. Fuck you!
Plus, check out J.K. Simmons in his screen debut.
Demon seed.
Number 10. Miracle on 34th Street. Released in 1947, it is the story that takes place between Thanksgiving and Christmas, and focuses on the effects of a department store Santa Claus who claims to be the real thing.
Your beard doesn't have one of those things that goes over your ears.
Well, that's because it's real, just like I'm really Santa Claus. Oh, go ahead, pull it.
Interestingly enough, and perhaps strangely enough, even though this movie takes place during the holiday season, 20th Century Fox head Darryl F. Zanuck insisted that the film be released in May, saying that more people would go to the movies when the weather is warmer. So the movie wasn't advertised as a Christmas movie. The scenes taking place at the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade were actually shot during the 1946 parade. The film stars Irish beauty Maureen O'Hara, who initially turned it down at first, having moved back to Ireland following the end of World War II, but changed her mind after she read the script and returned to the States to do the film.
Faith is believing in things when common sense tells you not to.
Huh?
I mean, just because things don't turn out the way you want them to the first time, you've still got to believe in people. I found that out.
The film was a big hit, winning 3 Academy Awards for original story, the screenplay, and Edmund Gwynn took home a Best Supporting Actor Oscar for his portrayal of Santa Claus. I firmly believe that this scene between Gwen and the little Dutch girl was the scene that helped him win the Academy Award.
Sinterklaas kapoentje, geef het in mijn schoentje, geef het in mijn laarsje, dank u Sinterklaasje. Sinterklaas kapoentje, geef wat in mijn schoentje, geef wat in mijn laarsje.
Before we move on, it's worth mentioning Gwen's acceptance speech. Now I know there's a Santa Claus.
A very Merry Christmas to you. Thank you, Mr. Kringle, and the same to you.
Number 9. Elf. Released in 2003 and directed by Jon Favreau, Elf is the story of Buddy, a human raised by Santa's elves who learns about his origins and heads to New York City to meet his biological father, played by the late James Caan.
I don't care where you go. I don't care that you're an elf. I don't care that you're nuts. I don't care that you're my son. Get out of my life, now!
Elf was first written in 1993, and early candidates for the role of Buddy were Chris Farley and Jim Carrey. But instead, the role was played by Will Ferrell in his first film following his departure from Saturday Night Live.
Okay, people, tomorrow morning, 10 a.m., Santa's coming to town. Santa! Oh, my God!
The film has the look and feel of Rankin and Bass's Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, even down to incorporating some stop-motion puppets.
Bye, buddy. Hope you find your dad.
Thanks, Mr. Narwhal.
I'm sure you Ghostbuster fans might recognize the Hobbs apartment building is the same apartment building that Dana Barrett and Louis Tully lived in at 55 Central Park West. Elf was a big success and spawned a Broadway musical, a stop-motion animated remake for TV. I even did a production for my community theater curtain call in 2018.
Call me Elf one more time. He's an angry elf.
Look at you!
Number 8. White Christmas. Released in 1954, White Christmas is the story of a song and dance team becoming romantically involved with a sister act and teaming up to keep a Vermont inn from closing. The film was made in order to recreate the success of two films Bing Crosby did with Fred Astaire, called Holiday Inn and Blue Skies. But for one reason or another, Astaire dropped out and Donald O'Connor was in. When Connor dropped out due to ill health, in steps Danny Kaye. And who do they get to direct? Why, none other than the Steven Spielberg of the golden age of Hollywood, Michael Curtiz. This was Curtiz's first film following his departure from Warner Brothers. And just as in his best films there, Curtiz works his magic in every frame. One scene people always seem to remember is the boys' parody of the Sister Act performed earlier by Rosemary Clooney, George Clooney's aunt, and Vera Ellen.
Sisters, sisters, there were never such devoted sisters.
This moment wasn't in the script. It was just Bing and Danny fooling around, and apparently Curtiz thought that it was funny and decided to film it. Now, when you watch the scene, Bing cannot keep a straight face, and Danny kept trying to get a rise out of Bing, and at one point cracks up. They did another take where he didn't laugh, but it was decided that the former take where Bing did laugh was better. With songs by Irving Berlin and photographed in VistaVision, White Christmas will make your days merry and bright.
Merry Christmas!
Number 7. The Polar Express. Based on the children's book by Chris Van Allsburg, tells the story of a young boy who, on Christmas Eve, is invited to climb aboard a magical train to the North Pole.
Well, you coming?
Where?
Why, to the North Pole, of course! This is the Polar Express!
Now, growing up as a kid, I remember having this book read to me, and I remember being fascinated by the beautiful illustrations done by the book's author. And now, Back to the Future director Robert Zemeckis brings the story to the screen in a very unique style.
And sometimes, the most real things in the world are the things we can't see.
Yeah, as I said in my Robert Zemeckis countdown, sometimes the facial animation is unsettling at times, but this was an entirely new approach to visual storytelling. But does that take away from the magic and whimsy and enchanting atmosphere this movie provides? No. Most of the film's strengths are attributed to the music score, done by Zemeckis' lifelong composer, Alan Silvestri. Also, check out this nice little gem.
We got a troublemaker now. Just what we need. Pigs aren't paying enough. What's his 20?
Apparently, some kid from Maplewood, New Jersey stuck some gum in his sister's hair.
New Jersey?
Is that the same kid that put the tech underneath his teacher's chair last year? No, sir. This kid's name is Steven.
This was Zemeckis' subtle jab at his mentor Steven Spielberg, who was known to be a tormentor to his three sisters as a youngster. Very clever. Number 6. Die Hard. That's right, you heard me, Die Hard. Even though the movie came out in the summer, it has Christmas all over it. It has sleigh bells in the film's score, for God's sakes. But anyway, based on the book Nothing Lasts Forever by Roderick Thorpe, a sequel to his book The Detective, Die Hard is the story of John McClane, a New York City cop arriving in Los Angeles to spend Christmas with his estranged wife, who works at a high-rise building called the Nakatomi Building. But then a group of German thieves pretending to be terrorists seize control of the building. And now it's up to McClane to put a stop to them by any means necessary.
Mayday, mayday, anyone copying Channel 9?
Attention, whoever you are, this channel is reserved for emergency calls only.
No fucking shit, lady! Do I sound like I'm ordering a pizza?
This is the film that made Bruce Willis into a star, who by this point was only appearing on television.
Come to the coast, we get together, have a few laughs.
It was also the first time American film audiences were introduced to the late, great Alan Rickman, an actor forever immortalized as Professor Severus Snape in the Harry Potter series.
You hear that? Talk to me! Where are my detonators? Where are they, or shall I shoot another one? Sooner or later, I might get to someone you do care about.
Go fuck yourself, Hans.
To this day, there is still an endless debate on whether or not Die Hard is a Christmas movie. Bruce Willis doesn't seem to think so, but I still watch it whenever I can on Christmas Eve. That and Die Hard 2, which is also set on Christmas Eve. So if you're in the mood for a Christmas movie with some action, look no further than Die Hard.
Do you really think you have a chance against us, Mr. Cowboy?
Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.
Number 5. Dr. Seuss's How the Grinch Stole Christmas. Based on the children's book, it involves a reclusive creature living north of a town and is determined to steal their Christmas in the cover of darkness, disguised as Santa Claus.
With this coat and this hat, I'll look just like St. Nick.
For a lot of people, we were introduced to the story either through Dr. Seuss's book or through the masterfully brilliant cartoon by Chuck Jones and starring Frankenstein's monster Boris Karloff, not only narrating, but providing the voice for the Grinch.
I must find some way to keep Christmas from coming.
And while I do love the animated Grinch a lot, but that was for television, and this list is reserved only for movies that are released theatrically. So along comes this live-action readaptation of the classic story directed by Ron Howard and starring Jim Carrey as the Grinch.
The Grinch!
Now, when I first saw this in theaters, I was knocked out. It was amazing to see something that only existed as a cartoon, but now brought to life in a very stylish way, right down to the consistently tilting camera angles, production design, which provides us with little to no straight lines, the elaborate costumes, and not to mention the Academy Award-winning makeup provided by makeup wizard Rick Baker.
Kids today, so desensitized by movies and television.
Any version, whether live action, animated, or computer animated, The Grinch Who Stole Christmas is still a must-watch during the holidays.
If you utter so much as one syllable, I'll hunt you down and gut you like a fish! If you'd like to fax me, press the star key.
Number 4. National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. Based on the short story by John Hughes, it is a third installment to the popular Vacation series featuring the Griswolds, headed by Clark and Ellen Griswold, played by Chevy Chase and Beverly D'Angelo. This time, instead of a road trip, the Griswolds have a good old-fashioned Christmas in their own home. Hijinks ensues. The film originally was offered to Chris Columbus, who had wrote Gremlins and The Goonies, after scoring his first hit movie, Adventures in Babysitting, and his first flop, Heartbreak Hotel. Unfortunately, Columbus did not get along with Chevy Chase at all, so Columbus dropped out and in walks in another director.
Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. Kiss my ass. Kiss his ass. Kiss your ass. Happy Hanukkah.
This is one of those movies people often quote frequently during this time of year. Even the term Griswold house is thrown around in describing a house decorated to look like the Las Vegas Strip. He's gonna have a pretty big electric bill.
For
We're gonna press on, and we're gonna have the happiest Christmas since Bing Crosby tap danced with Danny fucking Kaye.
People can relate to being with family you just want to get away from, but you're forced to be with because it's Christmas. This movie shows that to the point of cartoonish insanity. When was the last time you had a squirrel in your Christmas tree?
Is he gone?
Probably got scared and ran back into the tree.
National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. You'll crack up.
Hallelujah! Holy shit! Where's the Tylenol?
Number 3. It's a Wonderful Life. Based on the short story and booklet The Greatest Gift by Philip Van Doren Stern, It's a Wonderful Life is the story of a man who thinks his life is a failure and plans to end it all on Christmas Eve, only for a spiritual intervention by a guardian angel makes him realize that life would be altered for the worse should he not exist to begin with.
Your brother Harry Bailey broke through the ice and was drowned at the age of 9.
That's a lie. Harry Bailey went to war. He got the Congressional Medal of Honor. He saved the lives of every man on that transport.
Every man on that transport died. Harry wasn't there to save them because you weren't there to save Harry.
At first, this was a property for RKO Radio Pictures to star Cary Grant. After Grant went on to do his own Christmas movie, The Bishop's Wife, RKO sold the rights to the story to Frank Capra, who set up his own production company, Liberty Films. In the lead of George Bailey is Jimmy Stewart, in his most emotionally powerful and moving performance.
Get me back to my wife and kids. Help me, Clarence, please. Please. I want to live again. I want to live again. I want to live again. Please, God, let me live again.
Other actors include Donna Reed, Henry Travers, Thomas Mitchell, Lionel Barrymore, Gloria Graham, H.B. Warner, and Jimmy the Raven. Capra's frequent collaborator, since You Can't Take It With You. This movie and Schindler's List are the primary examples of how one person can make a difference regardless of who they are, and how we impact the people we encounter, and when that's removed, how different the people we know change dramatically. It's no wonder why the American Film Institute picked it as the most inspiring movie ever.
To my big brother George, the richest man in town.
Though this film wasn't a hit on its initial release, it clearly illustrates to audiences how important one's life is to the people around them. It never fails to move me to tears.
Look, Daddy, teacher says every time a bell rings, an angel gets his wings.
That's right. That's right.
Attaboy, Clarence.
Number 2. Scrooge. Yeah, there are countless versions of this story adapted to film. Silent, talkie, black and white, color, animated, live action, musical, straight drama, period, contemporary, full-length, or condensed. Now, if I had to pick all of my favorites, half this list would be comprised of various adaptations, but if I had to pick my favorite adaptation, it would be the 1951 British adaptation, starring Alistair Sim.
Humbug!
You all know the story. A crotchety old miser, Ebenezer Scrooge, receives a spiritual intervention from his late partner, Jacob Marley, and 3 more ghosts for the sole purpose of changing his ways.
Oh, pity me, Spirit, pity me, and help me. Help me to sponge away the writing on this stone if I repent. And I do repent, I do repent.
What makes this version so unique is that this version manages to expand the past events that are only slightly mentioned in the original story, such as the passing of his sister and his partner. Also, it includes his rise to prominence as a businessman and how he was introduced to Marley. Sure, purists will complain about it being padding the story, but you don't see that side of the story in any other adaptation. Plus, Alistair Sim brings the character of Scrooge to life in such a way that he embodies the squeezing, clutching sinner at the start of the story, to when he's finally redeemed through his spiritual intervention.
I don't deserve to be so happy. I can't help it. I just can't help it.
Plus, the visual effects, though primitive, are quite interesting. So if you're struggling to find a good adaptation of Charles Dickens' immortal story, look no further than this 1951 British classic.
God bless us, everyone.
Now, before I reveal my number one, here are not one, not two, but three honorable mentions. Ernest Saves Christmas. The third film featuring Jim Varney as Ernest P. Worrell. This time, he is struggling to find a replacement for the aging Santa Claus. Sure, it's silly and stupid, but it's fun, and just downright funny.
Air brakes.
Gremlins. Released in 1984, Gremlins is the story of a young man who receives a cute little mogwai as a Christmas present and is given the name of Gizmo. But then things happen, including getting them wet makes them multiply, and feeding them after midnight makes them change into slimy green creatures. Krampus. Released in 2015, it's the story of a dysfunctional family causing a young boy to lose his faith in Christmas and unleashing the wrath of Krampus, an evil version of Santa Claus. It's kind of a spiritual successor to Gremlins with a nice blend of horror and comedy.
Evil Santa, Jesus H. Almighty. Should be yammering about a rabbit Easter bunny come spring.
Howard, that's enough.
And my number one favorite Christmas movie is We've Got a Tie. No BS, we've got a tie. They are Home Alone and Home Alone 2 Lost in New York. Why did I pick two of them? Well, I'll explain a bit further on. Home Alone, written by John Hughes and directed by Chris Columbus, is the story of the McAllister family, who leave their Chicago home for a Christmas vacation to Paris, France. Why anyone would go to Paris, France at Christmas time is one of the biggest mysteries to me, but I digress. Little do they know, they left behind their 8-year-old son, Kevin. Along the way, two bumbling burglars target his house, and he must do everything he can to stop them. It was a John Hughes idea after he had worked with a young Macaulay Culkin in the film Uncle Buck. It was one of two scripts Hughes gave to Chris Columbus for him to direct. Remember what I said about Columbus's involvement in Christmas Vacation and how that turned out? Well, when he dropped out of that, Hughes gave him the script of Home Alone, which he was committed to direct. Columbus brings the feel of Christmas right down to the production design, the cinematography, and not to mention that heartwarming music score by the legendary composer John Williams. Now, why did I put two on the number one spot? Well, Home Alone 2 Lost in New York is like a good deal of sequels made around the time, was basically a cash-in on the success of the first one. It's basically the same story, but done on a much bigger scale. But having said that, it's very well acted, it's very well directed, plus Joe Pesci and Daniel Stern really put a smile on my face. So whenever I need a good Christmas movie to get in the holiday spirit, I look no further than the 2 Home Alone movies directed by Chris Columbus.
Yes!
Oh, as for the other Home Alone movies, forget it. Home Alone and Home Alone 2: Lost in New York, my #1 favorite Christmas movie. So let me just close by wishing my viewers a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Happy holidays, everyone.